This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com with my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. This was the Wrestling Observer 2023 Awards edition. I did a whole update on that yesterday, just covering the awards. Went about 15 minutes, so I didn't want to mix it with this update. So let's get into it. Apparently, as far as Billy Jack Haynes, he is still in the psychiatric ward in the hospital. He has not been officially charged with the shooting death of his wife yet, according to Dave Meltzer. When I talked to the detective, a detective called me and questioned me about him, I guess last week from Oregon. They did mention that he was in the hospital. So there's no question that he's got some psychiatric issues. Probably a lot of that has to do with all the concussions he's had over the years. As for instance, his whole story of the boys on the track, I believe that he just saw a documentary on that and convinced himself that he was part of it. Working for Barry Seal as a big time drug dealer in the 80s, I believe he just saw the movie about that and convinced himself he was in. I don't doubt that he may have done some small time stuff, but there's a lot. He's a great guy, a nice guy, but he definitely has some confusion issues, and I don't necessarily think that he lies about um, some of this wacky stuff he talks about. But I do believe he believes what he's saying, whether it's based in reality or not. And a terrible situation with him and his wife, who was 15 or 16 years older than him. They'd only been together a few years. She had Alzheimer's. He appears to have some form of dementia. And apparently, she died of a gunshot wound. Bronson Reed, who's from Australia, did not appear on the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view yesterday because he was injured, but his wife ended up giving birth over the weekend, so turned out well for him. He was there for the birth of his son, Afa Anoa Jr. Afa Jr. said that Afa Sr., who was always loyal to WWE, got fired at one point from WWE, according to Afa Jr., for leaving the tour to see the birth of himself. Apparently, CM Punk was supposed to win the men's Elimination Chamber match. Didn't appear like they even used him at all on the show, which is strange since it's just a tricep tear. He still could have. I mean, they had Cody do a talk show segment. I don't see why they couldn't have used CM Punk because that was a low star power show. Nia Jax in the main event, and apparently she wasn't very good in the match. She's hardly a main event quality wrestler, but they need an opponent for Rhea Ripley. Naomi apparently had a very bad performance in the girls' women's chamber match, according to Meltzer. There was a lot of screw ups in the girls' elimination chamber match, which apparently got better as the match went on. A lot of people I know only watched the men's elimination chamber match because there wasn't much else interesting on the rest of the pay per view, according to my friends that have the network. Paul Roma appeared on News Nation, talked about the sexual harassment of a gay executive on his former partner. Of course, he's talking about the Paul Roma Pat Patterson incident that Shane Douglas and Marty Jannetty talk about this on this channel. Apparently, had to do with some sexual advances. There's a lot of stuff on Pat Patterson that got swept under the rug because he was such good buddies with Vince over the years. By the way, also speaking of Alpha, the Wild Samoan, his WXW promotion is closing down due to health issues. WWE wants Sylvester Stallone to appear as part of WrestleMania this weekend, since the Rocky movies were based in Philadelphia. Gotta love those Rocky movies. I saw the latest one not too long ago, and I have to admit I didn't like it. It's where the guy and I don't even remember his name. There's my own concussion issues. The new star of the Rocky movie fights his friend that was in jail and comes out and suddenly he's popular enough to box him for the world title in a stadium, which is it's just too unbelievable a story for me. WWE is returning to Vienna, Austria, May the 2nd, the same week that they're going to France for SmackDown and the No Mercy pay-per-view. France, I would definitely like to go to one day. Beautiful, beautiful women in France, great food. Apparently, the best states for buying pay-per-views are California and Texas, and this goes for both WWE and AEW. WWE had some great turnouts in California. February 17th in Oakland, 7,578 fans. 18th in Fresno, 9,770. And these are house shows. So say what you want. Like I'm an old school fan. I don't like this current product, but I mean they're doing a lot less house shows. That has something to do with it. More people travel because they don't do the smaller towns. But those are some good numbers. SmackDown from Salt Lake City last week, 11,033 tickets out. Raw Anaheim, 11,032 tickets out. Rock is going to be on SmackDown this coming week in the Phoenix area, the area where I hope to live one day. Apparently, Tommy Dreamer is the new booker for Impact since Scott D'Amore's firing. In AEW news, AEW in Tulsa for Dynamite this week did 3,277. I've driven through Tulsa before. Bill Watts territory. Apparently, on top of Jim Ross's recent battles with cancer, he recently also had a broken hip. He still wants to call the March 2nd Sting Last Match. I like Jim Ross. I really do. I don't know if he remembers me or not. Every time I see him, he acts like he doesn't remember me. JJ Dillon's like that too. And I've actually done a three-hour interview with JJ. But I've seen Jim Ross a bunch of times. He knows I'm a big fan of his. But for the people that they're getting up there in age and meet so many people, it's hard to remember fans. But yeah, I wish him nothing but the best. The Rock's $7 Entertainment is going to do a movie about Ric Flair. Steve McMichael was in intensive care over the weekend because of pneumonia and other infections. He's back home now. New Japan News. Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler's getting a never open weight title match against David Finlay, February 23rd. He's mostly jobbed on almost every independent match I've seen that he's wrestled on um, since being released by WWE, where he was a very high paid jobber, but also had a career previous to that. But I know you got to make money, but you'd think if you wanted to get over more in New Japan or Impact, you wouldn't do these smaller shows where you're losing and it's getting on tape and losing to sometimes people far less known than you. Anyways, he's a multimillionaire. He probably doesn't care. But if I was a booker of New Japan and I looked at all the jobs that Nemeth has done recently, I wouldn't have him win the title for that reason. In MMA news, it's a very disappointing UFC 300 main event. Alex Pereira versus Jonathan Hill, light heavyweight title. I mean, we're promising a great main event that's very lackluster. Wanderlei Silva, the axe murderer, is going into the UFC Hall of Fame. Was announced on February 17th. Apparently, Putin, the Russian president, is an MMA fan and does not like Conor McGregor. He apparently awarded Khabib, sorry, and I have too much respect for him to try and pronounce his main event. But he awarded Khabib 20 million in property in Russia after he beat Conor McGregor. Also gave him a Mercedes. And Dana White said this publicly. He feels that's one of the reasons he retired. Big J21 wants to see Billy Jack Haynes free. I mean, honestly, if he loved his wife as much as he talked about her, I mean, it could have been a mercy killing, but he probably does need some psychiatric help at this point. I'll be perfectly honest. He's somewhere where he needs to be at this point. I don't think, and I've had some bizarre conversations with him, not related to his wife, but just how far out there he is. He probably does need some psychiatric help at this point. I would love to do a Rick Martel interview. Hopefully it'll happen this year. Mike, do I remember a wrestler from Canada named Tom McGee in the 80s? Yes, he had a great physique. I'll be honest, um, at one point, an agent got me an interview with Scott McGee, and I thought it was Tom McGee. And I had all these questions prepared for Tom McGee, and it ended up being Scott McGee, who I knew nothing about. But we got through it. Piper's doing well, but with my shattered heel, I can't go up and down the stairs to walk her right now. So hopefully I'll get her back soon. It's been a horrible injury. Was in New Jersey on the weekend getting some stem cells and other therapy done on it. Billy Jack is in the psych ward in Oregon, and he might get charged or he might not get charged with a murder after. I guess we'll see. Did McGregor respond to Dana White's comments about that? No. But he has been talking about supposedly McGregor's probably going to fight July during International Fight Week. So appreciate everyone subscribing to the Hannibal TV. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Lots of videos coming this next week. And please give this video a thumbs up. Help me out. Have a great afternoon. Appreciate all of you guys.